a girl who was just really, her life was something like I'd never seen and experienced before. And she started coming to church with us. In fact, she came to ride our pony first off, and then got to know her, and her story began to unfold. Her father, who she thought was her father, was beating her with his walking stick and telling her that she wasn't his child anyway. She was 17 years old. And so she was thrown out, and I took her to this place not too far away from us. Her room was on the second floor. I took her up to this room, and there was a great hole, like the whole width of the corridor, with two narrow planks over it. Could see your breath in the air. Went to her room, and it broke my heart, because there were just bare walls, a bed and a wardrobe, and I had to drive away and leave her there. And as I was driving down the drive, I was just heartbroken and weeping and saying to God, why isn't the church doing something about this? And as time went on, more and more bad things were happening in that house that were affecting this young woman. And after 3 weeks, I woke up one morning saying to God again, why isn't the church doing something like this? When he said to me, but you're the church. Oh dear. And I just knew from that moment we had to do something. So we just started looking for buildings, believing that God would pay for them.
We just took a step of faith. We prayed for somebody else to join us, and another couple joined us, and then another couple, and we prayed over 2 or 3 big houses, and eventually we got this, Carrie's house.
Have you? Right. And let's get all the colours out.
You can have children until 7 years with their mothers, boys and girls, and that's a really motivating factor. If the mother comes with her child or is able to come with their child, then it can motivate her to really stick to recovery, to break free from some of the things that have been difficult, to make some really good decisions and prioritise what is most important, and to not be held back by some of the things that might have been distracting her in the past.
If I had not done what I did, my son would have gone up for adoption, and there wasn't a chance that I was losing my son. I would have done whatever it took to keep my son.
You've got issues around childcare and issues around contact often with, because if a mother comes to us, frequently she comes without her children but with the aim of being reunited with her children. So that's going on at the same time as the recovery programme.
Now, can anybody find me a small one?
So it's a development process where the mother can have that full connection with the child, as well as fully participate in the recovery programme that we offer, which is vital and really important for the bonding relationship between the mother and the child.
My role is to be sort of consistent between nursery and the house. That way the children that live in this house and go to the nursery have one person that they see constantly, and they know sort of how what works where, that kind of thing.
Whenever it's possible, and often it is possible with the right help at the right time to keep a family together, then we should do that. We really began to see that the work that we're doing at Carrie's house in the family centre was great, but because we weren't able to meet certain levels of need because of them being too complex to mix with the families, people who were really hurting through mental health disorders or addiction, they just didn't fit in this setup in the family centre. So we began seeking God for how we could deal with that, and we'd wanted in the first instance for the work to be on a farm. That had been our heart, to have it away from the community as such, giving people a complete space, being in the open countryside where they could maybe think more clearly have space to think. And so we began really seeking God for how we would achieve that. But many, many circumstances drew us towards Oakfield Farm that God had been at work in. There's the farmhouse, which is the home of the recovery centre, and we have up to 4 women at a time there, and they go through a programme, and we average about 10 women a year in that property. To see their lives changing is, is without cost, isn't it?
And some women, the doctor said, oh, you have just 1 week or 1 month to life.
I needed help with my alcohol addiction, and it's the first rehab I've been to, and basically I just needed it outside of actually killed myself. My organs were failing. I was really poorly.
Yeah, I just arrived with 1 case with all my belongings in. I just asked for help.
The reason I came into the GNFC recovery was to do with a chaotic lifestyle that had been going on for 15 years, starting with amphetamine use in the early 90s, which led to me losing my 2 sons to a care order. They went to live with my mum and dad, and then I ended up in prison and started with heroin. Which just spiralled out of control to a point where I couldn't cope any longer. In the midst of all this, I had a daughter, and I was offered rehab, and I was offered to bring daughter with me, and that was the start of where I am now, free. I've been free now for 3 years.
Providing a safe environment, providing security, providing boundaries. Boundaries are really important. And of course there's lots of sort of teaching as well that we do here during the sort of group work. But I think largely it's just like having a lifestyle with people, living with them and living almost like a family really.
It doesn't feel like being in a rehab here. It just feels like I can almost class it as my second home, because it is just so friendly and loving. But they're helping you at the same time.
First impression I got of the place when I came was family. The first time I'd ever felt like I got a real close family connection, that I felt loved, I felt safe, and I knew that I was ready to start a journey into my recovery.
I think the first lady that I key worked, she came in and she was really on death's door. In fact, she'd died in the ambulance more than once before. She'd been picked up from the gutter. She was mixing a lot of drugs and in a very, very high-risk situation. And she had a daughter. Amazingly, she still had a daughter with her, because often people in that situation, the children have already been taken away and they're in the care of social services. And she came here, and she was actually from a farming background, and she loved horses. And her daughter came with her as well, and we cared for her and her daughter for many months. And she has really, really turned her life around. She's now working for another ministry elsewhere.
In the last 16 years, the highlight has been seeing some people's lives turn around and really change.
We see them develop, we see them recover, literally. Coming sort of frightened of their own shadow. It's one of the things that's really good with the farm, because we've got everything from hens, sheep to horses.
Times when people have said, I don't really want to do anything with the horses when they first come here, and then the day that they get on and they say, that was fantastic, I love it, then that's so rewarding. It's a really great feeling when you've noticed you've overcome something within someone and they've found something that they really love, they want to do it again. So that's a really rewarding thing.
You see them a month or so later, they're in control of this huge, great big beast of an animal, and they are in control of it, and that gives them the self-confidence that's required to overcome their problems.
They're all successes, but there have been those that have really taken on board that their lives have to change. And one particular resident who came in. She was very anti. She felt that she'd been forced into the program.
My life was kind of going downhill, and I thought I need to do something about it. I found out I was pregnant, so I thought, right, I need to get off the drugs. I had social involved, and they said that there was a place, Good News Family Care Farm in Buxton, and to enable me to get my son back, I had to come there. So I came there roughly 2 years ago. I spent 6 months there. Then I came to Callis House.
And at the end of the 6 months, this lady's life was totally and absolutely transformed. And it wasn't because she was forced to. She realized that she was accepted unconditionally, non-judgmental, and she was able to express all the things she'd never ever been able to express before.
When women are ready to move back into the community, we support them to find their own house.
I remember the day that I started being able to bid on houses, and I was so excited.
And it's not only that person's life, it's their family around them. You know, sometimes their children are with them, and you know that those children are going to have a different life.
I came here 5.5 stone, with next to no hair, with a life that completely collapsed. I've lost 2 boys. I've now got my 2 sons back and a grandson, and my daughter's doing really well in secondary school. So whoever is out there that thinks there's no hope, there is hope, and it can be done.
You see lives change. You see people come here and they're coming from really difficult situations, domestic violence, homelessness, drug abuse, and you see them change. You see them make different decisions.
Obviously, the highlight of any recovery programme is to see people set free from their addiction and going on to succeed in their future life.
There's people out there that need help. There's people out there dying, and without places like this, people are going to die. And I wouldn't be alive now if it wasn't for this place.
As a charity, we're just so dependent on people being able to contribute. And some people can contribute financially, and that's fantastic, you know, because without the finances, we're going nowhere.
Well, there are two big financial challenges that the charity currently has. One is the need to pay off the remainder of the purchase price for Oldfield Farm. And the second one is quite simply the running costs.
The biggest challenges keeping it going are mostly the fact that it's old and there's not a great deal of money to repair. So things like the windows at the moment are in desperate need of repair, and there is some money to replace some of the windows. But it is only some of the windows, and quite honestly, all of the windows need replacing.
The housing benefit and other fees covers approximately 50%, I suppose, of the outgoings that we have. And that's not including the purchase of Oldfield Farm.
Other people have no finance, but they can come and give of their time and contribute in many, many ways. There's so many ways that they can get alongside people. They can help with practical things, with administration. They can come and work at the farm alongside people. They can help take a family on an outing, for example. You know, just many, many things that they can do. But underneath all of that, we need people who will pray, because without prayer, we can do nothing. And that was the message that God gave to us right at the outset. We weren't getting the word out of what we were seeking to do. We were it was beginning to take shape as we prayed over it, and in our minds, you know, we were getting direction. And then this one day we were praying, and we really believed God was saying to us at that moment in time, there's many people, prayer warriors out there. An army of prayers was the phrase we got. There's an army of prayers who can't pray because they've never heard. We need to get this word out. And I think that was probably the moment when we realised that this was a much bigger thing than 6 people sitting in a room praying every week. We believe that family cycles of dysfunction and pain are being broken down through this work, and that there are families who will be whole and productive and happy because at some point in their history a woman came to awful harm. For me, it's hard to think about it in terms of sacrifice, really, because you know, we might give God a shovelful, but he gives us bucket loads. What riches would there have been that could compare with seeing people's lives change like we do?